to Cindy's library, and today I'm going to talk about what I read to finish up the month of June. So, let us get started. I read Cousin Phyllis and Other Stories by Elizabeth Gaskell. I had forgotten how wonderful she is as an author, and not only of happy stories, but often of happy stories too. Read this for Kate Howe's book club, and the main story is Cousin Phyllis and a young man. He goes to a town, happens to have some near relations nearby, so he meets his cousin Phyllis, and they are like brother and sister truly, and it is about what happens to both of them, and mostly Cousin Phyllis. I also read Enter a Murder by Ngaio Marsh. This, well, of course we have Detective Allen back. His newspaper friend, forget his name, but he invites Professor Allen to go see a dramatic performance and get a peek behind scenes, so to speak. Which is all very well, but let's just say there's some tension among the crew, and one of the actors in a scene ends up dead. To be fair, the scene does use a revolver that is fired, so easy enough to imagine the opportunity as far as that part goes anyway. But for the rest, it is difficult because the dead man is not exactly universally loved, so many could have wanted him out of the picture, so to speak. And a number of things within the company comes out too, as Inspector Allen investigates. I am liking Ngaio Marsh more and more the more I read her. I hope that continues. For Ancient Sun, I also read Purgatorio from the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri, and totally different from Inferno. If you've never gotten past Inferno, it's totally worth it. This, in many ways, mirrors the journey that the pilgrim Dante made in Inferno, except this time it is not with the hopeless, unrepentant souls, but with those who had at least a drop of repentance. And however hard it may look, they are on the way to purging themselves of their sins and ascending to the divine realm. So glad I read it. So glad I read it. I also read Emma M. Lyon, the Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon, Volume 6. Wonderful, of course. Keeps getting better and better, except it ended, let's say something of a cliffhanger. That's a good way of putting it. You see Emma and her interacting with her friends, and hard to say much without spoilers at this point, but enjoyable as always. I also read Charmed Life, which is by Diana Wynne Jones. This is the first book in the Crestomancy series, and one thing we learned is that in this particular world, magic is real. We also learned there are many other worlds that are linked together, and the most powerful of enchanters can reach other worlds. The most powerful is Crestomancy, a 9-lived enchanter who basically has all the lives that his doppelgangers in the other worlds in this series would have had they lived, which they did not. And it's a story of Cat and his sister Gwendolyn, as everything starts out well enough, but tragedy strikes. Her parents are killed in a tragic accident, and at first they are taken in by a witch. Probably not the first choice, but they ended up there first, and Gwendolyn wanted to stay there. To be fair, Cat did as well. And Gwendolyn is clearly very magical, and let's just say she catches the attention of Crestomancy, and things go on from there. And most of this is told from Cat's perspective. And we slowly learn about Crestomancy and other worlds and things like that, along with Cat. I also finished All Things Bright and Beautiful by James Hariot. This, so wonderful to return here. So happy I could. And I finally finished it. These are almost short stories. I mean, they're all in the same general locations. It's all looking after animals, of course, as Jim does. But sometimes I see characters again, especially Tristan and Siegfried and the housekeeper and Jim's wife. But other than that, the stories kind of stand alone, or it must go over a couple chapters. So glad I finally finished this one. I also read Caddie, Woodlawn by Ryrie, Brink. Very fun. It's a Newbery winner, and I can see why, and see why it's a children's classic. This is a story of Caddie Woodlawn. Her family lives in the frontier area of Wisconsin. This is during the Civil War, since some of those events are mentioned, but mostly it's Caddie's adventures, and yes, she does have adventures, since unlike her sisters, she is very much a tomboy and spends most of her time with her brothers outdoors, doing outdoor activities with them. And I reread Macbeth by William Shakespeare. Oh, Macbeth, you started so well, being the perfect servant to King Duncan. Servant's not quite the right word. The perfect vassal of King Duncan, doing great things and being rewarded for them too. But of course, shortly after the beginning, on his way from his most recent exploits, he encounters the 3 weird sisters who prophesy great things, and things go on from there, especially when he tells his wife what the weird sisters have prophesied. Definitely a masterpiece. And then I read Death Comes at the End by Agatha Christie. Now this one is a standalone, and this one is rather interesting because unlike most of what Agatha Christie wrote, which is pretty contemporary or near contemporary within a few decades, this is set in ancient Egypt. So I'll probably butcher some names. So you have Renaissance. Yes, she is the only daughter of a priest who, of course, lives along the Nile. She was married, but sadly her husband has died, so she and her daughter have come back to her father's house, where live a bunch of brothers, their wives, children, various servants. But while she initially thinks nothing has changed there, the longer she stays, the more she realized that maybe things have changed and not for the better. And one definite change is when her father comes home with a new young concubine. Well, this is bad enough, especially when she gets left there by herself while her husband goes elsewhere for important priestly duties. And she ends up murdered. Well, everyone says it must have been an accident. The path and ledge was high up from which she fell, but not everyone thinks that it was necessarily an accident. And we'll just say time proves those fears right. And Renaissance, well, let's just say she has, excuse me, she has much to figure out. With the help of the few people she does still trust there. I also finished Journey with the Inklings, which Kaylee from Luminous Libro did for June. So the first challenge was Encounter a Wise Mentor, which is read the Bible. In my case, I read from the Book of Mormon and the Doctrine and Covenants, to research ancient legends or non-fiction by the Inklings. So letters by J.R.R. Tolkien, and fiction by the Inklings, or number 3 is Set on a Quest, which is being fiction by the Inklings. So I read a bit more into Screwtape Letters by C.S. Lewis. Letters of Wynne, a senior demon, to his nephew. Number 4 is Discover Hidden Magic. And 5 is Rescue the Damsel. So read something new to me and read poetry respectively. This I combined into Reading Poetry by C.S. Lewis, which I had not read before. 6, Restore a Magic Sword. So read up books influenced by the Inklings, or that influenced the Inklings. So for that, I read Charmed Life by Diana Wynne Jones. I actually took classes from Tolkien, if not Lewis as well. 7, watch an adaptation, Defeat the Dark Lord. I'm afraid I did not get to that one. Then 8, Fulfill the Prophecy, read a book about the Inklings. I read some more in Pity, Power, and Tolkien's Ring by Tom Hillman. So, I would call this a successful, busy month. So, how did your June reading go? I hope it went just as well. I'd love to hear all about it. Thank you so much for stopping by. I truly do appreciate it. So until next time, I hope we all stay safe and healthy. And as always, happy reading.